environmental quality, and she's going to be talking about their Supplemental Environmental Projects program. Thank you.
Can you all hear me? In the back?
I can hear you fine here.
Okay. Can someone in the back wave if they can hear me? Okay, great, thanks. I am one of 3 Laurens here today from the TCEQ. I work for the Non-Point Source program, and there are 2 Laurens here from the TMDL program, Lauren Young and Lauren Ortel, right over there. So that might get a little confusing, but today I'm going to present on the Supplemental Environmental Projects program, which is not the program I work for. So by the end of this presentation, you'll be as much of an expert as I am. A supplemental environmental project is an environmental enhancement project that offsets a penalty in an enforcement matter. Through an SCP, a respondent can choose to invest dollars in a project that improves the environment rather than paying funds directly to the general revenue. So the criteria for an SCP project is it's environmentally beneficial and that it's paid by a settlement from an enforcement action. So the criteria for SCPs are that they would like them to match the environmental media of the violation that is paying for the project. So media would be water, air, waste. However, many of the SCP projects have multiple environmental benefits, so they can cross the media line. And the project should occur in the community where the violation has occurred, but they define the community pretty loosely. It could be the river basin, not even just the watershed, but the river basin or aquifer, county, city, and TCQ air control region. So there are 3, methods of SCP projects or groups of funding. Third-party, custom projects, and compliance projects. So a third-party SCP would be probably what y'all would be most interested in. If a governmental entity or a nonprofit applies for, I don't know if that's showing up now. Applies for funding, puts in a project proposal, and it's pre-approved for funding. So the way that works is you get pre-approved for a project, and once a violator comes to and wants to do an SCP project, they can select from a list of projects in their local, area, and then hopefully your project would be selected. The other 2 options are custom SCP that could be done by the respondent of the enforcement action. So, but it would be to not address what where their violation. So that's really the main 2 options. In 2011, the Commission added a compliance SCP, and that is a project in which they actually address their violation, but that is a rare case. And those are only local governments. So some examples of third-party administrators are listed here. Governmental, quasi-governmental agencies. And it can also be nonprofits. And they group the types of projects into 4 main categories, roughly by media. Air, water quality, waste would be cleanup, but kind of the 4th category is habitat restoration, preservation, and acquisition. And they're not doing land acquisition projects as much these days. It's not the focus, but habitat restoration is still continuing. And these third-party projects and the other main category of SCP cannot be conducted on the sites that are subject to the enforcement action. So where a responsible party can be identified, though, at those sites, those projects cannot be done there. So here are some examples of the pre-approved third-party SCPs, OSSF repair and replacement. There's some water quality monitoring, continuous water quality monitoring projects, protecting watersheds and habitats such as park development and shoreline restoration. And there's statewide dump site cleanups and local ones as well. This is just a few examples. But again, it's not supposed to be at sites where a responsible party should be cleaning that up. So there are very varied ways, percentages that a respondent is allowed to offset their penalty by. So it depends on the type of group and the environmental benefit. So nonprofit or governmental agencies, if their project is going to have a direct benefit, that is, it's quantifiable, on-the-ground type of project, they can offset their penalty by 100%, whereas a for-profit organization that is under enforcement can only offset their penalty up to 50%, and then you see the less direct benefits, they can only offset up to a certain percent. And so an indirect benefit would be education and technical assistance kind of project. So allowable expenses under an SCP project would be direct costs, like the cost of an education materials being printed, or monitoring equipment, disposal fees, really on the ground costs. What is not allowable are administrative costs, operating costs, legal costs, that kind of thing. And there are some requirements. They do quarterly, like the 319 grant program, you have quarterly and final reporting. The SCP program requires a separate bank account to receive the funds. And the project timeline is 1 to 3 years. And that's it. So if you have more questions, there is a brochure up back. That brochure is older. So the new third method of doing an SCP to directly address the enforcement issue is not in there. But the third-party contact for the SCP program is Stephanie Frazee, and she is out of our legal program. Any questions? Yes.
This might be a tough question, but I'll try it anyways. So I'm a project manager for SCP. It's a third party review group.
Okay.
The thing that we probably have more money in our account, and the project has come in under cost.
Okay.
And so we have excess funds by the time the project's completed this fall. Do you know if we can keep the funds, reapply for a second project, or will we be
Lauren, can you repeat that?
Yes. So the question was, he has an SCP third-party project that the county is administering, and they come in under budget. What can you do with those extra funds? I don't know. I will contact Stephanie. I'm sorry.
But now I had to do a pre-approved project. So I don't know if you have to apply online. I'm not sure, but I just called Stephanie.
There's another question? Yes.
This is just a comment for you to take back. I'm sure that Stephanie has heard this before, that it is extremely burdensome for nonprofit organizations to have to have a separate bank account. Modern accounting practices allow that the state itself does not have separate bank accounts for all of its funds. Modern accounting practices allow you to track these things and not have to incur extra costs of opening another bank account and have all of that. So that's comment number one. And I know it's not you, I'm just asking you to take it back. And number two is that it's also extremely, almost impossible for smaller nonprofits to participate in the SEP because you do not allow for the costs of doing the project, the internal costs of doing the project. You know, the cost of staff time, the to monitor, to go out for bids, to you have, the SEP money allows you to pay for somebody else to do some work. But if you've got internal costs associated with that, SEP will not pay for them. So that's, especially for smaller nonprofits, that is huge, to not be able to pay your staff costs to actually make a project happen. So I know it's not you, but I think all these people need to know that, and I hope you'll take that message back because it's huge.
Right, so when you're developing your watershed plan, do not plan on funding the administrative costs of implementing an on-the-ground project through the SCP. It's a really good thing to know up front.
I mean, that's recruiting volunteers, that's, going out for, designing the project, creating the contract documents so that somebody else can do the work. That's everything. Anything internal, we cannot pay for out of the city.
Right. And I would say another thing to consider with an SCP project is that you don't know when you're going to be funded, or you might be funded incrementally, like $1,000 at a time. Just something to consider in looking for that as a source of funding, but it is a source of funding.
Along those lines, my understanding is that some funds can be used as the match for 319 grant. Can 319 grant funds for TCQ be used to administer SEP funds?
It's the source of the funding would be state or local. So I don't think we've done it. The TCP non-concert program has been a project.
Yeah, it's been done through soil work, like in most other states.
Well, that's TCQ, but yeah,
Oh,
we
okay.
have a 319 project for our West Coast States watershed. We worked with some partners to get some SEP funding. We were able to do things to facilitate and administrate with 319 funds, and then use the SEP funds for the actual project costs on the ground.
That would make sense. I'm not the program manager, but I think you may want to consider that maybe as a portion of a 319 project.
I mean, the SEP funds in that case were used to replace septic systems.
Right,
So, I mean,
right.
It's very direct to the water that you could replace and water quality.
Right. And we fund, as a portion of projects, generally watershed coordinator, so that's one thing a watershed coordinator would do.
Another comment, I know it takes, I've been told that it's a minimum of 6 months between when you submit an application and when it can be approved for a third party SEP. I've also heard that one of the most effective ways to make sure it's closer to 6 months than longer than that is to have Kate Bailey Hutchinson write a letter of support. Has anybody else heard that? Okay, here, what you said.
What she said is that it's good to have local,
Buy-in.
right, right, political support for your project. I cannot speak to that. Yes.
Yeah, I have a question. These are for set projects, that a project that the organization wants to do and needs funding for, correct? And how difficult, does it have to be for a specific project or could it be for?
You have to apply, if you have a work plan, you basically apply for a work plan, a specific,
Project?
I'm sorry?
Is this almost like a grant application type of process?
I would guess. Yeah. I haven't personally gone through it, but.
Yeah, I just, you couldn't just say like water quality and sanitary like we would need to do like specific,
Like a restoration of something?
absolutely, as specific as possible. And just because you get on that pre-approved list does not guarantee that you're gonna get funding.
Right, because the person, the group, the entity under enforcement can have the option to fund an SCP project that's pre-approved, and they would select you if you're in their local area.
Okay, what if you do more?
And they could fund $5,000 or more. It wouldn't be necessarily the whole cost of your project. So,
Is that something that you can negotiate with the enforcement respondent? If you are a party?
what you would probably want to do is establish a relationship with that entity. If you know that people have, to track who's got enforcement proceedings, it wouldn't be part of this SAP process, but you could find out who has enforcements and they contact
And
that
we
entity and
generally
start.
comment, we generally.
Well, no, I mean, I would say this is going and establishing a relationship with that entity, so that they look favorably on your, they might look favorably on your project and choose to select your project as the project that they want to put their money to. So it's kind of a parallel, separate process, as opposed to, it's not part of the set process for you to do that, but you can do that.
And is there a time frame with the money that has, is there a time frame for the project to be completed?
It said 1 to 3 years, so.
They like it, yeah, but you've done.
But if you don't know who's going to get enforcement, it's kind of like almost like you're not going to be able to know you're going to get all that funding.
Right. So it can't be a time-sensitive project. It'd have to be something you can implement
In phases.
right when you receive the funding, and that you have basically the infrastructure and the funding staff infrastructure to implement it once you receive the dollars for the on-the-ground course.
So if you're a small nonprofit, is this process pretty burdensome for a small nonprofit that really doesn't have a whole lot of money to work with?
That's what it is. And grant processes are not easy for small entities. And that's just something to know. Yes?
Following up on what Linda was saying about establishing relationships with the entities, that's something we've talked through as a staff as well. Are there any restrictions, or I guess more importantly, any preferences or guidelines on marketing ourselves to potential violators, to see ourselves, to have them see us more favorably or be aware of us?
Right. I seem to remember reading that you couldn't do that. But I would, look at their website, and if you have questions, contact the legal contact.
So then is TCQ not doing any internal coordination between non-point source, TMDLs, the people that assess fines, and the SCP people to promote the projects that we all need to get implemented and the availability of existing or pre-approved SCP projects?
Right.
That the violators might not know about, and they just need to be told that there's a priority project in your area that you can contribute to.
Right. We have been in contact, both the TMDL program and myself, with the SCP coordinator. She's brand new. I think that if you have a project lined up for your watershed, contacting your, non-point source program or TMDL, whatever group, project manager or contact could definitely help with that process. But we have been in contact. She just started, by the way, like 3 months ago, I'd say.
One thing that we found in the Plum Creek watershed is that it's really important to educate all your stakeholders that come to those meetings on the availability of this program, because you're going to have your city partners there that may have a wastewater spill or whatever. And if they know about this project ahead of time, then they can be thinking about the SCP project. Because usually they're embarrassed and they want the media to be over if something like that happens. And so we had an incident where they got the paperwork that day, they mailed the check that day. They didn't even consider SCP project. They just wanted it done and over and paid and try to get it out of the media. And so this is a program that's really important to educate all your stakeholders on, that this is an option if they have a violation. If you know of a violation, I would go back and resend them the information about that they have this SCP program as an option.
Right,
And
and they
who
can
any
do it
third
themselves.
parties would be. Yeah.
Right, so that third party with, if you apply for a pre-approved project, you can do that, or the violator themselves can set up their own SCP project if that is an easier route.
How many SCP projects are there roughly every year?
That's a great question. I don't know. There's a long list of pre-approved projects, though, that you can look at. It's a pretty good long list. I'd say 30 or so. That may be.
There is a list in the annual enforcement report that TCQ's office of enforcement and
Compliance and
compliance and
enforcement.
enforcement. They put out a nice report every year, and it lists Yes.
Going back to Nikki's comment about educating your entities there that may have had an enforcement action, do you have an idea of, I guess, the revenue that's brought in to the state from fines versus how much of that is getting back into this SCP program? And I guess to follow up with that, are there, again, Nikki mentioned keeping things out of the media, but are there other difficulties that an entity might have as far as using that money for this program? Or, what's the holdup, I guess, as far as getting these programs funded?
Well, they are pretty flexible, which I would guess maybe there aren't people chomping at the bit to fund projects. So educating your own local governments and people with permits would be helpful. What was the second question?
Well, I guess, are a lot of the fines going toward these programs, or most of the fines just going into the general revenue?
Yeah.
And, obviously we can work on a local level as this, and I think Aaron talked about as the state, what can we do to work with the state to help us educate those folks that may not know about the program? And, that's something that I'd like, TCQ to think about.
We did an analysis with Eastern Region, and there are hundreds of thousands of dollars worth of fines in water media alone. And of that, probably less than 5% of that is applied to fines. So that's a lot of money.
And is this pretty much any fine can be applied to this? Is that right? And that just seems like a waste of resources there.
But the other thing, we talked to Stephanie, and she's looking into whether we could do a tribal brochure, so that they can get that water quality violation. It won't go into the
Well, they have that money that's staying in their community. So,
Yeah,
they have to do it,
Yeah, let him finish
it's not
this
a full revision.
He went-
They still have to take care of issues that could, have like an additional benefit.
Yeah, I think you could market that other than just being worried about getting out of the press. Let's try to put a good face on it.
Comment on that, they cannot do that. They can get absolutely no publicity for using SEP money for some other something else. That's part of the condition of the SEP. So when you get a SEP, you cannot publicize that you've got money, so-and-so contributed money to your project, because they cannot get any benefit from having participated in the SEP program. That's a media thing that's written into the requirements.
So I know one of the struggles that we've seen is that they have to quickly turn this paperwork back around, and so finding a third party and a project in their area to kind of deal with. And in our area, there seem to be a lot of error fines, a lot of dollars in error fines, but not that much in water or wastewater. You had a question over here. We'll do one more.
The requirements of the SEP fund is that there's no responsible party that can be identified to fix the problem. So then, this is one up there that with the Missouri County OSSF repair and replacement. It seems like OSSF has a permitting somehow. We should look into that. How can that use SEP funds when they're most likely is the responsible party for OSSF repair and replacement?
You want to talk about your experience there?
Yeah.
Okay.
Especially in Missouri County, a large number of the OSSS, especially the ones we're having trouble with in some of our project areas, are not permitted. They're legacy systems. So in that case, there isn't technically not a landowner. There isn't necessarily a permit. I don't know how they've dealt with permitted systems. I know there's been hotspot areas in the county where there's just so many failing systems that it's been enough of an issue to just deal with it probably.
Is there any income requirements on the ones that they will use the SCP funds for?
I don't know.
The statewide OSSF SEP project, is that ours? Is it the ours?
Yes.
The ours.
resource conservation.
Yeah.
tires.
Those are for low.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking, that it's only for low income.
That's what I was going to say about that one. That statewide S&T, the discussion that Linda was commenting on about the administrative burdens for small entities, that I think Watershed Coordinator, we really need to look at these pre-approved S&T lists and look for ones that exist already in our watersheds and see which ones line up with the goals in your watershed. That being said, the RC&D one is one that is statewide. So every county already has an approved S&P right now on the ground to do tire cleanups, illegal dump site cleanups, household hazardous waste cleanups, and on-site septic repair for low-income families. So if the burden of getting a new one approved and administering that is too great for your watershed, use these existing pre-approved S&Ps. RC&D is ready to do this across the state. So it's got to get find money for the S&P.
So I'm just going to repeat that real quick. We're out of time, but Aaron Went was saying that there is a statewide pre-approved one, SCP for tire cleanup, OSSF, dump sites for low income, and for your watersheds to try to target the ones that are already pre-approved as one of the mechanisms for documenting potential implementation efforts. So thanks for everyone that had lots of knowledge that shared. I appreciate it.